Welcome to the Val Valley Model Railroad, a fictitious subdivision of the Norfolk Southern. This is our yearly update, state of the layout if you will, how the layout is up to date, so if people who have just started watching my channel will kind of see the layout as it is and can see it progress from this point. So we're going to kind of go over the layout step by step as to what's here and some of the changes that were made real briefly over the year. We're going to start here at the farthest point, and that's the power plant here, our city light power. Not much has happened here since it was installed. Eventually we will detail it. Moving on, the next step would be Pearson Yard. This is the biggest yard here on the layout, and it too has had some work. We've had some track realignment to ease going into the power plant to give our 6 axles a little bit of easier getting in than having to fishtail through some number 4 switches. Okay, we'll stop over the KD magnet here. We'll bump them together a little bit. There you can see the couplers came apart. Now that train is barely moving. Watch what happens. There they go. And you saw it, no hands on them cars. Following that down, next up on the layout we have the Pearson Yard office. This has seen some detailing and some changes this year. Okay, moving along to the Pearson shops. This is the diesel shops for the layout. Take a look here. The diesel shops haven't changed much since they were installed and the scenery was done. We do have some new motive power that has been added, like any model railroad. The water tank and the cooling tower here at Pearson Yard. And next we'll meander down to the Pearson Roundhouse. Looking down towards Pearson Yard again. Okay, moving along from Pearson Roundhouse, we will see what will soon be, or eventually be, Val Valley. Still an empty hole with stuff stuck under the bridge. Hopefully this year we'll get that scenery in. Now we're coming into the town of Stillwater, where we have a passenger train idling. We'll take a complete aerial view and then we'll look at some of the individual buildings. One of my favorite little buildings on the way out, Mooring Company. I saw that on eBay and had to have it. Had my last name on it. Just one of those things you have to have. And we've got a couple of cars here. We also have a large construction site here in Stillwater, where the railroad is actively replacing a crossing and a lot of railroad ties here. See if we can take a look at the yard tower here. And the signaling system is new. I will be doing an updated video on the signaling system in more detail, but it is in and works for the main line. Here we have Sickin' Tire. I guess the workers are just sick of making tires here. But it's a pretty cool building. I like it real well. And across the street we have a couple of shops. If we rest here a minute, you'll see that the lights in the buildings go on and off at randoms. We'll take a look at the buildings one by one. This is Biker Bob's motorcycle repair. This was made in memory of a dear friend who we lost this last year. And he did have a bike shop named Biker Bob. And we have a store. I'm not sure what this one sells. But this one is a hobby shop. I don't know if you can. And another bookstore, and then Cheers, which apparently is closed at the moment. Maybe the lights will come on here in a second. Or not. Anyway, as soon as we pull away, they will. Some of our other buildings. Harbor Freight Factory, or warehouse. It too is on the circuits that have lights that change now and then. There comes on some of the warehouse lighting now. So this is the town of Stillwater. Moving on down the road, we have a dirt lot. Wow, ain't that exciting. This has been my latest project in between working on the signals. We finally have Wallace Junction, which has a pond in it, which we're in the middle of pouring. I was using magic water, so you have to pour it and let it cure a little bit. And I was doing it in layers. I don't know how well it's going to show up, but I got little fishies swimming in there. And I'm not so happy with my fish. They're supposed to look like fish, and they don't really look much like fish, unfortunately. As you can see, the water doesn't reach the dock yet. The water has to go up to the dock. Again, there'll be more of this in another video, how we did it. And some of you have already seen a good portion of Wallace Junction. This is the back side. We'll look at the front side in a minute. This is the little station here at Wallace Junction on the Bessemer Railroad. This little track here that goes from nowhere to nowhere represents the Bessemer Railroad. My grandfather had worked for the Bessemer Railroad for a while, so I had to have at least a tie with the Bessemer Railroad. And there's one other point. The actual, here in Pennsylvania, not maybe 70 miles from my house, I live in New York State, but in Pennsylvania there is truly a Wallace Junction. It's in part of, by now, Erie, Pennsylvania. It's kind of been enveloped. So Wallace Junction was named after that, and it was a place where the Bessemer did meet with then the Nickel Plate, and now Norfolk Southern. I'll take a look at the back of the station here a little bit. Alrighty, we'll go look at the other side of Wallace Junction next. Okay, we're on the front side of Wallace Junction. This is probably one of the prettier sections of my layout. And that was kind of on purpose because this is closest to the viewers when they come. And it is also on a lift-out bridge. I'd lift it up and show you, but my lake might slide out of its pond hole there, and we don't want that. Now, one of the neat things about this tower here at Wallace Junction, it has a complete interior. There's actually a switchman in there. There he is. There's a desk. I don't know if we can get a right angle to see the desk with items on it. And in the back you can actually see an image that was from the inside of a real tower. Not necessarily one at Wallace Junction, but it works. And we'll take a quick look at some of the signaling system now, because we're at this part in Wallace Junction. I have some dwarfs here that this track here goes up to the branch line. We'll look at that in a little bit. And these are the main lines. And when this switch is lined for the main line, we get a green at this end and at the other end. When the switch gets thrown line for the branch line to go up the Sutton branch, as I will do here, you see the signals change. Now the dwarf reads green for the branch line, telling the main line that they can't proceed, while the dwarf on the far side always remains green. It should go to flashing when it's at diverging route, but that's in the works. And this other switch here is also protected by two dwarfs, and that goes to my programming track. And I'll throw the switch over, and the same thing, they switch back. Alrighty. So this was Wallace Junction. Okay, we're back on the inside of Wallace Junction, and we're going to kind of flow up the branch line. The branch line, which starts here, here's the diamonds at Wallace, and that switch is the one that leads into the branch line. And he kind of just snakes around back and disappears behind a lot of the city buildings as he climbs. Starts making the grade. It's a 4% grade for about a quarter of the way. And we're still snaking along behind buildings. And we won't look at the scenery mess. This again will be the Val Valley Canyon, and there will be a waterfall underneath the first bridge, which is the double track. The single track is just above the river. And at this point, the grade lessens out at the far end of the bridge here from 4% to about 3. And then it kind of tapers off down to about 2. This is West Billings, named after my grandmother's side of the family. We still have some buildings in the crossing I want to add there. We did have, we'll kind of stop on our way up here. This was pretty cool. We had installed a defect detector, and you can see the little sensor here, and when a train passes over it, it counts the axles and it will sound off whether it's a defect or not. So
Norfolk Southern, Val Valley, Sutton Branch, defect detector milepost, 10.5. Defect. 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 Defective head and car number 11. Defective axle number 2. North rail. Defect type, flat spot.
and now the train crew will key up after they get their train brought to a safe stop and notifying the dispatcher. They can key up the mic again and bring back the defect report.
Defect report. Total car count, 17. Total axle count, 68. Defective head and car number 1. Defective axle number 3. North rail. Defect type, hot journalberry.
Here past Billings, and it's just a long, narrow shelf. Comes out above Pearson Yard. And the attic door here, eventually this will be Sycamoose. Now it's just a junk pile. Here's another one of our lift bridges over the main entry door. We're now coming into the town of Wilson. And Wilson this year has seen a bit of work happen. We've done quite a bit of track realigning in its yard. And all these buildings you see here in Wilson, except for the station, are brand new. And we'll take a quick look at them from the General Mills. To the General Electric building. I love that sign, that's pretty cool. And the little ironworks factory here. And there's crossing lights going in here for this crossing and a detection system along with regular block signals for the branch line. I have all the signals, we're waiting for some electronic parts to come in. And time. projects, I get buried in all my other projects. Continuing on down the Barren branch line, we'll fast forward. Now we're coming into Sutton. And Sutton is like a collection yard where several coal mines, in this case coal tipples, will be. It's a long yard, holds about four trains of 12 cars each. For this railroad, it's pretty big. Not so big on others, but for this one, it's okay. We have one of the coal tipples finished here, and that's Black Cat coal tipple number 1. And there'll be a second one, a little bit bigger, that'll sit right here by the Sutton sign. And there will be a third coal mine way back here where all those cars are parked. Kind of hard to see. A bunch of junk back there, no lighting right now. But that'll be an actual coal mine. The Walter's New River mine will be back there. Some of you may have seen the pictures. I recently finished building it. Now I got to get the area cleaned up and get it in there. Here in Sutton, we have a scale. And the scale isn't finished putting together yet because I want to put one of those detectors in it. And I got to get a digital readout screen so that it'll display weights of cars. You can actually pretend you're weighing each car when I'm done. And the Sutton branch is really the being for this railroad because it will ship coal from here all the way down our branch line. We'll take a real quick dizzying trip down the branch. Oh boy, you get dizzy quick. Anyway, it comes down here and then would be sorted through the yard and into the power plant that you see there.